Hello there. Just waiting to see that everybody can come in. Four viewers. Awesome. Yes, there is a link to the Google directly. That's the events page. I think that's it, right? Okay, awesome. Let's get this started. Thanks for everyone who did the first activity. It turned out really, really good. And I will have a look through all the posts. I actually had a look through the posts. They're really good. And I try to basically respond to everyone individually, of course, openly in the chat, but just to get a few points across. It's really interesting, a lot of similar stuff, which is not too surprising. One of the things is always comes up with those is how to do it in practice, and I think I try to prepare something for the coming weeks to just have a nice look at that and see what we can do in the practice to counter that web obesity crisis. One of you mentioned that it is probably mostly communication, and I agree, because communication is the key here. I think oftentimes a lot of people get like really carried away if they see something, if they encounter some incredibly nice animation or a background video on a website, and they say, oh, we want that on our website, without really having purpose for that. So I think that's an important part, probably the most important part of addressing the concerns that Marseille raised. Yeah, it was really nice to see all of your different things. There's branding mentioned, and also using stuff and minimalism, how that works together actually. Yeah, I think that's really, really important stuff, and it's good to have this conversation, and it's good if content people bring that conversation to the designers and the developers, because the thing is, the content in terms of megabytes, in terms of kilobytes, it's so small. It's a fraction of the website, although it's the most important thing on it. So that's where you come in, and you can steer that into the right direction. And of course, there are websites that are beautifully designed and where the design like underlines the content and creates like whole worlds of content. That's incredibly interesting and useful as well. So yeah, I think there's need to have a balance there, and at the moment we're just doing stuff, and that's probably not the way to go forward. We have to be very deliberate with what we're trying to do, actually. So today we have quite a short lesson, and I basically the only thing I do is to open this website, and after we talked last week, someone mentioned to me that the font was very small on the screen, so I tried to have the font much larger now, and you should be able to read it at least when the website is actually or when the stream is okay. But I will also put it into the chat, which I forgot last time. So if this happens ever again, just ping me openly in the chat, because that's embarrassing, and if it's embarrassing, I will change something. So I will just relatively quickly, go through this easy checks page, and this will actually result in your second activity that goes through the whole of the rest of this semester. I plan that you have like large groups, and the steps are rather short, so you won't have like really a lot to do, but it will be quite some time where you can take a look at this and work through that. I will quickly remove the left navigation thing because we don't need it in this presentation. And expand the font or the column where we are. Much better, much better. So, and hide that stuff too. So wonderful. So what we're looking at is called Easy Checks. It's a first review of web accessibility. And if you're going through this page and apply it to your website, you can basically say, yes, this website is kind of accessible. What you for certain can say when you go through this page and you encounter barriers, you can say your website is not accessible, but you can't really make sure that it's accessible, because accessibility is much more than those easy checks. Because if it was so easy, everyone would do it anyway. So this is actually a very nice resource that brings us nicely through all of the steps needed, and there are also some development tools that one can use to test stuff, and there are also some bookmarklets that I will link to too. So this is basically the first step into a multi-step process. So the first thing is to do this preliminary review, this overview thing, just checking, is it okay, is it not okay, stuff like that. And then there is another thing that is called the WCAG EM. which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines Evaluation Methodology. This website accessibility conformance evaluation methodology that gives you much more information about what you actually need to do the full thing, to go really in deep into the site and say, yes, this is accessible or this is not. So, but this is not what we want to do there now. This is basically the next step, the second iteration. So the first thing we can take a look at is page titles. Now, page titles are really important. I mean, you are content strategists. You know that. Oh, and we have someone watching on the phone under the umbrella. That's great. But probably not too worth it. But well, it's your choice. So page titles are important because they are really giving you the first impression of the website. Well, for someone who is using a screen reader, the page title is always read first. It's the first thing they encounter. And for us visual users, we don't see that too often, but we see it on the top in those tabs. And it's, of course, if you are still on in a browser with a title bar, it's in the title bar because that's the name of the title bar. And then you have to think about how you structure it. And the best thing is to go from the most concrete thing back to the more general thing. So here it's just easy checks, a first review of web accessibility, which is totally fine and can work very well. On many websites, you see then like a pipe character or something else that says the name of the category, and then you got like another of those pipe characters, and then you got the name of the company, and so you have basically a reverse breadcrumb navigation in the title, which is useful as well. The title is also shown in the search engine's results, and it's also used in bookmarks and favorites in browsers. So it is quite important to do this right. So with, in this case, EasyCheck's first review of web accessibility in the title, it's really easy to find that tab in the 4 tabs that are open. Now, I really have like a lot more tabs open usually, so I probably would just read, mine probably would just read easy, but that's good enough to give me a hint. If they all started with web accessibility, I had no idea where I am. And that's something that you basically can use. So if you're having like a set of web pages that are very similar and thus have like similar titles, you can go and try to itemize them. So if you have, for example, 3 products, and your main web page heading is something like move to this product, or move to that product, move to this product, then you would have move as the first thing in your title too. But that's obviously not best practice. So the best practice is to to only have like the product name in the title. So to look if the title is accessible, you do the following. You look at the page title and you look at titles of other pages within the website. That sounds easy. And then you check that the title is adequately and briefly describing the content of the page. And you check that the title is different from other pages on the website and adequately distinguishes the page from other pages. Fair and easy enough. So that's really easy to do. And then there are some tips. There is flexibility on what makes a good page title, so nothing is really set in stone, as always. And that's probably some message I can give you on your way, is that in accessibility especially, the answer more often is like, it depends, and I don't know what the absolute correct thing to do is. So yeah, there's always room for improvement, or sometimes there are just different ways to get to Rome, so to speak. So best practice is that titles are front-loaded, what I said earlier. And here are some examples for poor titles, like Acme Web Solutions Inc. About Us. So if you got like only the first 3 words in your tab, they would all be the same. And browsers are trying to circumvent that. So some browsers don't show the first few words, but they try to find where the differences are and try to show that. So probably that is becoming less relevant in the future. What you then can see in this page is that you have page title checks. So with different browsers, this is basically a step-by-step guide on how to see the title. Even if you don't have a title bar, you can just hover over it and it should show. Usually it does, but it does not here. And there are other things that you can do. You can display the add bookmark dialog box. I can do that. I want to have the reader view. There we go. Oh, then I only can put it somewhere. Interesting. So obviously in Safari on the Mac, it's not so easy to do that. But you can always go into like the page in the page information stuff, or into the other developer tools. Now there is a browser plugin for Internet Explorer, and there is also one for Firefox. And you can check the page title with the IEWAT toolbar, and there are instructions on how to do that. And then you can even learn more about good page titles. So that's that. And if I just get the favorites bar back, can I move those? Nope. Okay. There is a set of bookmarklets that you can put into your favorites bar. And by Paul J. Adam, and there you can just click on title, and it should actually show the title. Oh, this is just the title attribute. Please just Oh, there's title. There we go. And then it says page titled, easy checks, a first review of web accessibility. And it also shows the language that this page claims to be set in, which is also useful and also an accessibility thing. So that's one way to do it. So the next thing is text alternatives. Again, I've talked about text alternatives quite a bunch last time, so I don't want to go into really big detail here. So it's basically checking for the alt attribute, and it has, again, the stuff about appropriate alt text in there, and when alt text is not needed, and how the alt attribute in HTML works. And then there are the checks. So there's, again, the IE toolbar and the Firefox toolbar. And basically, you can, in the Firefox tool, you can outline images without alt attributes. And you can also display alt attributes. So this way, you really get a good impression. And then you can check alt with any browser, for example, using the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool web page. That's basically an online checker tool. And this will have information as well. So to test all of that or get an impression, you can go to the before and after demo, which is here, and can go to the inaccessible homepage. And when you take a look at the alternative texts here, you see that there are some images that have no alt. Here even it mentions that this is a link without an alternative text. Here the C don't have alt text, so the more thingies don't have alt text. So and this means there is no alt attribute. And this red city lights thing has the following alt text: red dot with white letter C that symbolizes a moon crescent. So it's basically a lot of marketing stuff that is in there, which no screen reader user ever needs to know. It should just say city lights, and probably the city as well. So as you can see, it's those tools are really interesting to get a good impression on those things. Oops. So then there is to practice checking alt text. Basically, with the checks above, you go to the before and after demo and do what I showed you. And I will provide a link to the bookmarklets as well, because you don't need to really install all the browser plugins for such simple use cases. So headings. Headings are really important. I think I talked about that last time. They are important for screen readers to jump to. They are important visually, so people get like information on the structure of your page. For example, here we got the headings thing. So this is a very prominent heading, and this is probably underneath it, and this is probably even underneath that. And those are probably the lowest headings. So what you can do is getting into those bookmarklets and select headings. And what it does is it shows all the headings. So this is an H2, and H2 means heading of the second order. So basically of the second level. So this would be here. And then underneath that is a heading of the third order, which is totally appropriate, which would be here in the chart. And then there is another heading of the third order, which looks differently. And I don't know if I like that particularly. But that is, of course, okay as well. And then there are H4s. So those are basically nested into this heading level. So inside the checks, there is the different ways to check or to practice checking. And then there is another H3 where you can learn more. So that is useful, but that also is a bit distracting, and that's why I reset this. So the next thing to check is contrast ratio. So contrast ratio, which is commonly called color contrast, although that's not technically correct, but one is very encouraged to use contrast ratio instead of color contrast, because we probably should just use language that no one does understand. So this is about the contrast ratio between the foreground color, so the text color usually, and the background color. For example, the base color of your page. In this example, this would be this reddish sand color against the black text. And as you can see, this is some gray text on white background, which is often used by designers who want to make the website as hard to read as possible, because I don't know what they're thinking, and this is only an image, so I can't really use like checking tools with that. But if I just pick the color from here, and you probably can't see that. No, I just picked the color of the text, and then I can go to Leo Verou's contrast ratio tester, which is this nice app thing, and put it in there, and you see it has the 4.2 ratio, and the ratio should be 4.3. 4.5 for text that is normal sized, and 3 for large text. So this means if you have larger text, it can be smaller, it can be lower, and that means you can have larger text lighter on the page. And larger text is defined as 18 point, whatever points are in the web. It's probably about 24 pixels, or bold and about 18 pixels or 19 pixels in font size. So then you can go under the 4.5 thing. So yeah, and as you can probably see, the text on the bottom, which is about normal size, is relatively hard to read. The how to use is better to read, but it's all not really the best experience. So one page to make this easier is, for example, to use a darker gray color. So we just go up and up and up. and we're not going up in like the normal ways. So this is about 8888. That would be too light. And then you go like 777, which would be almost perfect. The tool shows it as green, but it's actually like 4.499, something like that. So technically it doesn't pass. So it should go a little bit darker than that. So 767676, that would work, and is the like lightest gray that you can use in an accessible way. And to be honest, if you want to have something that is really accessible, I would always go for the 4.5 ratio and never go for the 3 ratio, because it's really hard to read, even at large sizes. I put the link into the Slack channel as well to this tool, because it's very useful. And then you can, of course, go to 7.5 and 12.6 for really dark gray. And this is usually the color that I recommend for reading, because, while certain people with disabilities are okay reading text that is fairly light, like this one, if I'm out on the street on my mobile with the glare and stuff on the screen, I'm usually not too impressed with really like grays on white. So I try to always promote like using more dark things, and probably even using like black on white can make your website look good in some instances. The thing is, as a background color, you usually don't want to use a flat plain white, because it is actually for a lot of people very hard to read, because of some intolerance against very light backgrounds. So usually you try to be like, okay, I go like F3, don't do that. F9, something like that. And then it's just not white. And this can in return change the relationship to the or the ratio back to the text color. For example, if I have a gray background like this doesn't have enough contrast, which is fairly obvious because it's now dark black on a gray background, but it's also not something that you want to do. And of course, you can always use like yellow and black to have even more contrast than with white and black. So yeah, and you don't have to really learn the concrete like formula. This is not math. This is something where computers can help, and they do. So usually high contrasts are better, but there are some people who need lower contrast, which makes this whole point pretty interesting. So some people need colors like this, brownish colors on black, or blackish colors on like brown, something like that. So what browsers do, and I can probably show that in a second if I find it. And of course, I do not find it immediately. This is weird. I just try to find it in Firefox because that should work out. Load. And changing the app. So stop percent. No, it's this. Hello again. Why is it switching it off when I just want to change the browser I use? There we go. This is the content setting in Firefox. And what you can do here, and probably can look into, is that here under fonts and colors, you can set the default font and the default font size. So you can say, oh, I want to have everything by default in 64 pixels. And usually websites are supposed to respect that. And then you can take the advanced thing where you can set a minimum font size. So even if the website specifies a font size that is smaller than your minimum set font size, it basically will get back and it basically will set this font size. Oh, and you can't see it because it doesn't show pop-ups, which is a funny trick. So you can set that to, for example, 16. And although when a website says the heading level 4 is like 12 pixels, it will display it at 16 pixels, which is useful if you can't see small type. But you can also go into colors and change text color and background color and link colors and visited link colors. You can decide if you want to underline links, and you can use system colors, and that is for more specialized, like system-wide contrast settings. And you can override the color specified by the page too. So if I go with always, and I want my text to be yellow and my background to be black, and I press OK, it immediately applies that to this page. And if I go to the Accessibility Rocks page, it also has those colors applied. Which is, of course, if you need that, it's a huge accessibility bonus to be able to do that. So that's colors, and you can also say that you want to. Whoops. You can also take away the decision of what colors to use, what fonts to use from the website, and say, okay, instead of a sans serif font, I will do Comic Neue, and okay. And then you will have my website not displayed with my fonts and colors, but something completely different. So the user is really in control there, which is pretty amazing. Now it would be good to get my mouse back, or I will use the trackpad. So just getting back to the browser. So yeah, I always think that's amazingly impressive to have that. Just get away from There we go. Yeah, so I have changed my setup here a bit. I got like a microphone arm. It's still the same microphone I use, but it's now much closer, and I can move my hand around underneath the microphone. So that's really neat. And yeah, so just reacting to the chat. And it looks larger on camera than it is in reality. So that's for that. So you got the contrast ratio. I showed that. I showed how to test it. There are some contrast checkers, and you can practice that again with the before and after demo. And you can then learn more about it again. As I said, there are a few plugins to use. For example, this Juicy Studio accessibility toolbar. It has it gives a nice like table of the different contrasts. Just be aware there can be false positives. For example, if you declared your website background to use white, and then you have like a container that whose background color is black, and you use then another element that has white as a background, some tools will say, oh, this is white on white, because they don't fully understand that this white text is actually on a black div or something like that. So the next thing to test is resizing text. So what should not happen when you're resizing the text is that your text like flows over other text. This is very bad, and if that happens, your website is not accessible. What should happen is that the text, the box in which the text is, just expands down and can contain more text. And if you're doing website stuff, you know that this is always a good idea, because there will be that content person that puts more text into that box than planned. And you're always happy to provide like a more flexible thing there. And what you also should avoid is having like a scroll bar on the bottom, because that's hard to see for people who are low vision or have some other kind of disability. So what to do in Safari and other browsers? First, you have to make sure that you're using zoom, text zoom only, which you can usually do in the view menu, and then you go like Control or Command plus, and do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we can see, this works out very well. So you can still read everything, and this is basically double the size of the text. And your website, any website, should work with the double size of the text. If you don't use that, if you don't reset it to text only zooming, the whole page will zoom. And often, if you don't have like media queries in there, you will find that you have like horizontal scroll bars, and you don't want to have them. So again, you can learn more. So then there's keyboard access and visual focus, and this is really like crucial for people using. And I have forgotten to click present to everyone. I always wonder if that then shows in the video. If it does not, that's then I need more people reminding me of clicking that. I think it is in the video. It's just not in the live stream or something like that. I'm really confused by this Hangouts thing. So as you can see, when you're going through a website with the tab key, which is the only key that is less used than the shift caps lock key. So it's above the caps lock key. There is the tab, and you can jump through the page. And as you can see on this, in this instance, it's like this blue shiny ringy thing around the text. That means I have selected this link. And I can use that to go through the content and then through the buttons and the other buttons and the other buttons, and basically go through the whole website. And then I'm on the keyboard access and visual focus page. So in other browsers, it's like this dotted line, this dotted outline. And that's useful often when you click into form fields. The form field changes, has another color. Probably red is not the best thing because it sounds like error, looks like error, but you can highlight form fields, stuff like that. So what's important is that every thing that gets focused, so that outline is the focus outline or the focus ring or whatever you want to call it. It's the focus status. And it's important that every interactive element, so every link, every button, and every form field has an not only an outline, but a focus view. This is also true for the main navigation, stuff like that. So there is especially on the Mac, there are several steps to do until you can do this like really, really good. But you enable it once and then you forget until you just like get a new computer and you wonder why you can't use this anymore. So yeah, you have to do a few steps, and then you check for those different things. So the first thing is tap to all. So all interactive elements like links, form fields, buttons, and media player controls, they need to be reached using the tab key. And that's more easy to find out if the focus is actually visible. Because if it's not there, it's really hard to do. Then you need to make sure that you can tap away from every element that you can tap into. So if you, for example, think back about when we used Flash like animals, then it was like often it was like you tapped to that and then the focus just disappeared and you couldn't get out and you couldn't basically go beyond the Flash video, and that's obviously bad. Everything that is on the website, on the page, should be available using the keyboard. This means functional parity. It means parity, not parody. Parity. This does not mean it needs to work the same. So if you think about drag and drop stuff like that, where you put something from left to right, you need to provide a mechanism to move stuff from left to right, not like drag and drop using the keyboard and then go like pixel by pixel using the arrow keys. That's not meant by that. Yeah, but with drop-down lists, you basically need to use the arrow keys to move up and down the options without triggering an action. And then you get image links, and they need clear focus as well and need to be activated with the keyboard. Then there are some checks for forms, labels, and errors, and those are rather complex. So if you don't feel like you want to do that, you can skip over that in the first pass and do the other stuff. But it's having accessible forms is really important, and most websites have some kind of form. So what to check for is keyboard access. This ties back to the other point. Then you need to check for labels. So that basically means that if I click onto email address, the cursor gets automatically into the email address field. It's so annoying if that doesn't work because you're basically dependent on that. And this is even more important if you think about radio buttons or checkboxes, which have those tiny, tiny controls on the left. And then you're really happy to click just the text, and this works across all user interfaces and on all like operating systems usually. So then you need to check that required fields are clearly indicated, for example, by having an asterisk there. Some use color. It should be a combination of those two. And every instruction that is supposed to, or that you need to complete the form needs to be there. There are some things about error handling. And then you need to check the labels. The labels are most important. And if we just get into the before and the after demo stuff. So this is the form field of the accessible version. So if I click onto South Park, it works really nicely. I can select a city from the list. I can fill this out. As I said, the red is probably a bit too much. So, but before, this was the form in the before demo, and you click onto South Park and nothing happens. And you can only need to target this radio button, and then you don't have nice you don't have those sorted by the first letter, so that's really hard to grasp as well, especially for screen reader users. So, and this doesn't have any label like name. As you can see, the name is here directly associated, which is really really important. So that's that. And of course, you can use the bookmarklets that I will link. And they have those are headings, forms, and they got really all the labels and show the inputs with the IDs, and that those are the things that belong together, So skipping through that, then there's media and video and audio alternatives. So you test for captions, auto start, that it doesn't start automatically, transcripts, audio description, stuff like that. And then there is some catch-all thing in there, which is called the basic structure check. And that really goes through more, what's the best way to put it? More into the deep stuff and looks how the structure is. So for example, here you got the default text in 3 columns. And if you linearize it, so that would be in modern parlance, if you, for example, go into a mobile layout, you can see where the navigation is on the top, and then there's the main text, and then there's the sidebar, and then the footer. Or the other version is the sidebar on the top, then the main text, then the footer, and then the navigation. If you turn styles off, it could look something like that. So it's basically making sure that the overall structure of your website is good, and then you can, of course, add custom colors to it, what I showed before. And this is important because with the main text stuff and also not only the navigation, but also having a list there, this makes it much easier for people to adapt the website to their needs. And some people just like to have like a purple main text there, or have like purple borders around it because they have some disability that makes it easier to concentrate if they really always know where the main text content is. And then there are some next steps, and share your findings, stuff like that. You can contact organizations about inaccessible websites, which I won't promote at the moment because you should not do that. So, and that brings us nicely to our activity. And I will write that up probably at some point tomorrow, so you don't need to listen into that. So basically, the aim of this activity is to take the time and do those easy checks on individual websites. And as I showed, they are more or less involved. So things like forms, labels, and errors, that's really like a huge task, and the others are much smaller. So I don't want to divide those by activity. But what I would like to ask you, whoops, where am I? There am I. Is to form, I think, about 5 groups of 4 or something like that, and find a website that you want to check. That can be a public website, something that you want to see. I will put in the list of the websites that the people last year tested. So if you want to make a retest, that would be incredibly valuable as well. And you can just have a look around and see. So this is the activity. As I said, I will write it up in a concise manner so that you can actually understand what I'm saying and what I want you to do. But you can already find like 3 or 4 people that you want to work with to form those 4 groups or 5 groups, 5 groups or 4, something like that. And what we will do is we will have our regular next lesson or lecture is Saturday in a week. So we have like a rather big break now. And then then a week after, there is a Tuesday evening session again, where we will actually take a look at those activities, and I'm here for questions. And you can also send me previews, and I will try to get back to you. So we will make this whole thing, those 3 hours, we will make that very asynchronous. over that period of time. And then in the last session, on the 2nd of July, I will ask you to actually join the chat, the Hangout chat, and we try to talk about your reports. I think I want you to finish them sometime around the end of June. I don't have a fixed date in my head yet, but I think that's probably plenty of time, and it shouldn't be like really an in-depth evaluation of the sites, more like a short, probably one page thing, where you just get like, okay, what have been the problems? What did I experience there? Yeah, so that's the outlook. And if there are no questions, and I will wait just a moment to see if there are some in the chat, I will say we see each other in about 2 weeks. So, any questions? Yeah, it's a huge huge microphone, but I hope it works out and you can actually hear me very well. If I achieve that, that would be great. So Anna is already building her group, and the people who are watching this later, well, you missed out. That's how this works. And you will need to find groups among you. So awesome. Looks like no big questions. Thank you very much. See you all on the 11th. And then it's more like responsiveness and stuff like that. Goodbye. Wait.